Learning a blood Gemara. Today's daf is daf Tzadik of Tzadik. So we had two brises. We have two brises that we learned yesterday that conflict with each other. Just starting. One brisa said that when it comes to nichse maloik, or talking about a slave, that maloik, the woman brought into the marriage, a plucked one. So the husband has the dividends and she retains ownership. So one brisa said that if, let's say, you knock out his tooth, so if the woman did it, she goes free because it's hers. But if the husband does it, that's tzaddik. So tzaddik. If the husband does it, it doesn't go free because the husband doesn't really have any ownership over it. And the next brisa said that neither of them have complete ownership and doesn't go free. And we're trying to understand the basis for their argument. And we thought that maybe the argument is if dividends, the husband's ownership is really considered like ownership, is like ownership or not. So we said, no, everyone agrees that it's considered ownership over here. They're arguing that it's Rava. The second brisa that says that neither of them can do it is because it goes according to Rava. And Rava says that even though we have takana and everything else, but if the woman comes along and just like by a lender, if the borrower goes ahead and makes an apaitik, he says that this is the lien of the loan is going to be on this, and afterwards he consecrates it, or let's say it's chametz over Pesach, or if it's a slave and he sets him free, then unravels the whole lien. Same thing over here. Even though the husband maybe has rights over everything else, but if the wife then turned around and knocked out his tooth, the ever goes free. There's nothing left for the husband.
Can I just recap for a second? Yeah. Takonos Usha is that if she dies, the Nichsim Maloik, the husband can reclaim it.
The Takonos was that even though normally we say that Kinyan paid his lamp Kinyan roof, so if somebody, in the case of the father and the son, for example, gives it over to the son, the father can then turn around and say, it's going to be mine, I'll give it away, because all you have is dividends, and dividends is not ownership. But a husband, we treat differently. To enforce that relationship, we say that, by a husband, the alim shibud is much stronger shibud, and therefore the wife, even though the wife sells to somebody else, if she dies, it predeceases the husband can take it back from the lekech. So therefore everyone agrees to that. Over here, it's because of the second brisa holds like Rava, which means the first brisa doesn't agree with the Rava. Says the Gemara, let us say Tanai. The Rava's din is a machlekes, two brises. Another kuli alma used to the Rava. Everyone agrees. We're on Daf Tzadik Kama Daf. And we're saying over here that the brisa says that if even though the woman owns the eved, if she knocks out his tooth, he does not go free, is because since the husband has a dividends, we decided to make his relationship with us so strong that the wife cannot set the eved free to that extent. In 4 lines from the top, we're trying to explain the two brises, to reconcile the two brises. One of them says that we're nichsim, a slave that now is the husband is under the husband because the wife brought into the marriage and he has a dividend. Neither of them can set him free by knocking out his tooth because neither of them are full owner. And the other bride says that the woman can. So we're trying to explain. What's the argument there? Kuli alma, maybe everyone less lulhan tonight to go to maybe Taka, they don't believe it. Maybe we don't believe the husband has any special relationship. And the argument is in this very point, Kinyan paid is Kinyan aguf dami. Like the argument of Yechinish Lakish. If you only have dividends, does that give you any ownership enough? And that's the argument here. And one brisa says that the husband has no ownership, the wife is completely in control, and therefore she can, if she knocks out his tooth, the eved goes free. And the other brisa says no, each one's a part owner. She because it's hers, and he because he has dividends, and therefore neither of them sets him free. And we have such an argument. The pluk to the Hanathanoi, they're arguing actually what these Tanaim are arguing. Follow interesting case. The din is like this: if you kill an eved, it's like murdering anybody else, and we charge you. Even if you hurt him very badly, it takes a month before the eved dies. If he dies as a direct result of what you did, you'll be charged with murder, not manslaughter, but murder, and you'll be punished accordingly. But if the owner of the eved killed him, the law is as follows: if he dies straight away, okay. But if he stands up for a day and then he gets sick afterwards, if he stands up for a day, to know he gets better. and then he relapses and he died as old to you, you're not going to be charged with murder. But it only applies to the owner. So what happened in the following case? Let's say Reuben sells his Evet to Shimon, but a pasuk he made up with him. Part of the condition was, I need him for 30 more days. The following 30 days, the seller, the vendor, Reuben, says to Shimon, I'm going to retain his service, and then afterwards you take over. But you're the Balbos now. So what does Reuben have, the original owner? Kinyan Peitis. All he has is the use of the Eved. It's no longer his because he just transferred ownership. He sold it to Shimon. Yeah, but who has the use of the Eved right now? Who has the Peitis, the dividends? It's Reuben. And now what happened was Reuben by mistake killed him. Is he treated as if he's the owner? And therefore, if the Eved becomes well for a day or two, he's no longer charged with murder. Or we say, no, the owner now is Shimon. You're no longer the owner. You're just like using the Eved, and therefore, if you commit murder, you're a murderer. That's what we're going to bring an argument right here. The mayor says, the first guy has the law of the Yamayim because even though all he has is pay his dividends, he's the owner. Because this is him, because he is the balabas. It says tachas while he's underneath the owner. Right now, who's using him? First guy. Because somebody holds can you pay the king of dummy clear. That mayor holds can you pay the king of. No, this argument we had before is actually an argument of Tanaim. Interesting about the Gemara there doesn't, when we had the discussion a few days ago about Kinya petting goof, why we didn't bring this, it's a machlek tonight. Rabbi Yehuda says, Shani yesterday in mind. Rabbi Yehuda said, no, you know who the owner is? The second guy. The first guy's only using him. And therefore the first guy will be charged with murder. Why? It belongs to the second guy, because somebody holds Kinya pay this, Lavke Kinya goof dummy. The first guy's only using the it's not his. Rabbi Yossi says, Shnei yesterday in mind. Both of them are considered, perhaps, I will soon explain in a minute. It can be both the owners. Which one is the owner? Yet he said both of them are considered the owners, and therefore we don't charge them with murder. Why? The first guy because he's using him. The second guy because he's the owner. In other words, misapculate. He's like Rabbi Yossi, he's not sure. Kinyan Peitis, he can't go down or not. Or Lavka can't go down. He's not sure if Kinyan Peitis is, in other words, who's the owner? Is it Reuven, the one who kept the use of it, or is it the second guy? And we have a rule, the suffix nefashah. Before we kill somebody, we have to be certain. And since over here we don't know what the halach is, suffix nefashah will be lenient, and we don't charge either of them with murder. Rabbi Eliezer or Rabbi Elazar says, Shneim einam b'dei yamayim. Neither of them are free. They're both going to be charged with murder. The second guy because he's not using him. The first guy is not his. Amar Rabbi, my time Rabbi Elazar. What in the world is Rabbi Elazar's reasoning? Amar Kor, the pasuk says, "Ki kasbayhu." Why are you exempt? It's not charged with murder if the Eved sort of recovered for a day or two, because it's your money and singular. Kasbayham yuchelo. It has to be yours exclusively. And here it's not, because the first guy is using the Eved. So therefore, neither of them are considered full owner, and therefore neither of them have that exemption of kaspayu.
Would this be the same thing as a soicher? If he was renting from him his property, right? A place like that, a gola or an eved, whatever.
A soicher is we having more hazov. It's considered memchil yoyim echad. Might be you're the balabas at the time, just like by the chametz we say. It has to be, if you're a soicher, the soicher is the one who's responsible for the chametz in the house. It's considered his. Good question. Come on, Azla. So now the one says, okay, we have a din. Let's see which of these Tanaim does it follow. Mayor said, if a husband and a wife jointly sold their nichse meloi, they sold she brought an asset into the marriage. The husband, the one has a dividend. So together, jointly, they sold it. So you have both owners here. Yet los klum. It's not a valid sale. Now, wine was not a valid sale. Two partners own something, they sell it together. Of course, it's a valid sale. It goes according to Rabbi Elazar or Rabbi Eliezer. Because Rabbi Eliezer says, now what's the logic in that? What's the difference in a normal case of partners? Here also, you have the husband and the wife. Okay, let's say they're joint owners, right? We don't know who the exclusive owners are. They're joint owners, but they're both selling. So Rashi says a fascinating thing. When you have two partners who own a house together, for example, each one owns 100% of 50% of the house. But this here is different, said Rashi. The woman owns 100% of the body of the Eved, but nothing of the dividends, nothing of the use. The husband owns 100% of the use of the Eved, but nothing of the Eved itself. So they're not partners. Partners are we both overlap. Here I have it's two separate like dimensions. I own 100% of one dimension, and you own 100% of another dimension. So how are we partners? Exactly. So therefore, I mean, I don't have a right to sell your half, and we're not together. We're not partners. Very interesting idea of Rashi here. Okay, so Gemara continues. Who learned to follow? If you have a case of a half and half, how is that possible? Two owners, one of them set him free, one of them didn't. So one day a week he worked, one day he works for his owner, one day he works for himself. One is the owner, one for himself. And just said two partners. Or an evid of two partners. Now, normally we say that if you knock out a tooth or something else, he goes free. 24 limbs, but not in this case. If either owner, or in the case where you're half the owner and there's another guy the owner, neither of them have the ability to set him free. Who says that? Why not? They're both partners. They both have ownership here. So he said, you know why? Because neither of them have exclusive right over the evid. This follows Rabbi Lezer. It says in the pasuk, "Who sets it free?" Kaspoy hamichla. When we describe the owner of an eved, it's a singular. Kaspoy, according to Rabbi Lezer, has to be your exclusive ownership. Achanami avdoi. Just like we dash in the word kaspoy, it has to be only yours, singular. So too, when it says avdoi, your slave, if you're not got a tooth, he goes free. It has to be your slave, single owner. If the two owners, they don't go free. So that's Rabbi Lezer's view, and that's the opinion that's there. Nami Abdam Yuchel has to be your exclusive owner. So therefore, the two shutzim, he does not go free. Mishnah. Okay, we had a little bit of the Mishnah before. Somebody either smacks his friend in the ear, or he blows a shofar in his ear, or he bangs the wall next to his ear, he frightens, intimidates him, or harms him. How much do you pay him? Noisen loy seller. You give him a seller. You embarrassed him. We're not talking about so we had it before. We're talking about you embarrassed him. Rabbi Yehuda says you give 100, you give 100, you give one mana. So there's I guess an argument here how much you have to give. According to him, you give seller, which is 25. The other one says you give mana 100. What a great disparity between the two. It's not even close. Rabbeinu Tam says very interesting. Rabbeinu Tam says, according to others, Rabbeinu says as follows: that Rebbe is saying the minimum you pay is a seller. That's a poor man's price. For the rich man, you shamed him, depending on the level, the caliber of this rich person you pay. But the Mishnah is stating the bottom line for a poor person is 25, is seller, which is 25. Rabbi Yisrael Gluli is saying for a rich man is fixed 100. For a poor person, you work your way down depending on the caliber of that poor person. So now they're not so far away from each other. Okay, so you gave him a smack. That's more shameful than banging the wall next to his ear or blowing in his ear, and you startled him. For that, the shame, $200. You give him a smack with the back of your hand, which is sort of worse than giving a smack with the front of your hand beforehand. $400. It's definitely not worth it. What happens if Tzoram ba'oznoi? Now, very interesting. Normally, we teach Tzoram ba'oznoi is you give a nick in the bottom of the head by a pchor, by a chamor, or whatever it is, by a set. Tzoram ba'oznoi, try to make a mum. But Rashi says here, Tzoram is Moshe, you have a pull. What's the big deal? You give somebody a pull by his ear. And look, because the Gemara says here, okay, you pull their hair or you cut the hair. Rokak, you spat at him. That's quite humiliating. The Gia boy, it's not enough that the spittle actually touched his clothes. It has to touch his body. Roika, you give a roika, the spittle touched him. Heavy talisa mimeno. The guy had a coat, whatever over him, and you pulled it off. Part of that you pull somebody, a woman is, let's say, shaitel off her head. Noisla abmez, you got to pay $400. Now I don't understand. You pull somebody's ear. No, that's a second shot. Rashi gives two shots in the word Sodom. Moshach pulling, or there he nicked it. So, but the first shot is Rashi is Moshach. Yeah, so I don't understand, and not that I found anybody discussing it. Pulling somebody's ear, how shameful is that? It should be equal to pulling a woman's shaitel off. And anyway, and so bottom line is that if you humiliate somebody, you got to pay, and there are standards. That clown. Then this is the rule. Hakoil lefi kvoidai. Then this rule that the Mishnah concludes, the Gemara will discuss later what exactly the Mishnah is trying to add of it. He just gave us fixed amounts. And then he said the rule is lefi kvoidai. So what do we say? So we'll see later whether you go up, you go down, depending rich, poor, and all that. Amar Kiva said, Afilu ani should be so. I don't care what your economic status is, even the poorest of the Jews. You have to treat them like royalty. These are choshev, distinguished people. Financially, they don't have money. So what? Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. We're all descendants of Rabbi Yaakov. Every Jew is distinguished. Like having more Shabbos there. Everyone's a b'nei Malachim. All part of the royal family. Umaisa is a story. A person can you imagine a person went over and pulled off a woman's shades in the street, in the market, public. She went to Rabbi Akiva to complain. The Mishnah says he ruled that this person who had the chutzpah to do that to pay her $400 because he embarrassed her in public. He said to Rabbi Akiva, can I have a little bit of time to pay? It's a lot of money. Tell these man, give me some time to pay. The Nasalai's man. He said, okay, I'll give you a certain amount of time. Shamra, so he waited. He was standing on the doorway of her courtyard. He wanted to prove that she didn't have such self-dignity that I have to pay her $400. If you say before, especially you say hakoil fi kvoida, I'm going to prove to you that she doesn't mind humiliating herself, self-deprecating. So why in the world should I have to pay? So this is what happened. What he did was, and she was a very poor woman, obviously. It was shavar as a kadra for now. There was a jug of oil. He broke it right in front of her. They used to put oil into their hair, so he broke a jug of oil. And there was the value of an isa, a nominal amount of oil. Gil says Raisha, standing right there in front of the open doorway so people from the public can see. She removed her head cover. So she dipped her hand into the oil and she started to put it into hair in public. He had witnesses hiding behind the fence. So they should, he set her up. This is a setup. And in Goyshul if you set someone up, it's illegal and you can't bring that into as evidence. Or if you can, it's totally discounted. Then he ran to Rabbi Akiva. You're worried about her dignity. She has no dignity. Look at her. In public, on her own. She went ahead and she removed her own shaitel and didn't care. Akiva said, this is not a valid taina. Why? If somebody wounds themselves, you're not allowed to harm yourself, which we'll discuss in the Gemara later. Fascinating that a person is not allowed to self-harm because your body doesn't belong to you, as we'll learn. We'll see the Rambam now. Potter, even though you're not allowed to, you are, but it's just, does she have to pay herself? Of course not. But even if this person self-harmed, and then afterwards somebody harmed them, they have to pay. None of your business what that person did. You harmed them, you have to pay. These are quotes, the same thing is, you chop down your tree. You're not allowed to, 12 tashkas, but you don't, but Achedim, even if he did it, and someone else came along and did it as well, Chayav, and they have to pay. So the fact that she did it, she has a right to. She can do whatever she wants herself, but she can be herself, but you have to pay. So the first question, we have a question. Mana Tsuri Trana, Mana Medina. I remember we learned that there's the money that was the currency that was in Sur, that was like in the Lebanon, in Sur, and then there was the currency, the local, which was an eighth of the value. And the difference is in those days, currencies had real value, intrinsic value, the amount of silver you had. So the Kesef Medina only had 1/8 of silver, the rest was copper. So it was only, and the one in Sur was 100% silver. So the one in Sur was worth basically 8 times more. Copper was then very, very cheap, like nothing. So the pruta, and therefore the one in Sur is worth 8 times. So which one do you have to pay? A guy with a person talking to Chavas smacked his friend. Also, the camera of UNC came to him and see the Amalei said, "Oh, I know how to make it look." He said, "He said, here am I. Here is Rabbi Yosef Lili. Havlei monotzuri, pay monotzuri. Shmamina monotzuri tanaz. A proof from here that you have to pay the coins of Tzuri, Shmamina. Now, we had exactly the same Gemara in the Lamav, but they did the Gemara conclude all the way around, that it's Mana Medina, Salah Medina. I remember we had the story, the guy didn't have change, so he gave him another smack. He said, okay, came out to be a half of a coin there. So he said, I'll pay a smack, and here's a full coin. But so the Halakha Gemara before, nothing more here. But now the Gemara is going to dwell and totally digress. What did Rabbi Yehuda see mean when he said, "Here am I," and here goes the What do you mean, "Here am I"? Here am I what? What's the relevance of that? We know you're here. That's why I came to you. My ho ano ho Rabbi Yisrael. What do you mean with that reference? This is what he said. Ho ano de chazizah. I saw what you did, so I'm the witness, and I'm the jury, and I'm the judge. No, no. No. That's a Kiva story. The guy came over who smacked his friend. No, don't forget that woman. Yeah, came to the friend, went to me, and obviously the victim went to be in the sea. He said, "I saw with my own eyes. I don't. So I'm asking right now. You owe money." And the basically says, "Monotsuri." So he said, "Basically, zil hable monotsuri. Give the guy the money." Okay, so what do we see from here? That Rabbi Yehuda saw it, and now he's a dayan. So we have a question: Can a witness be a judge? The member says clear from here the aid not a dayan. Rabbi Yehuda saw it, and he said, "I'm passing that you owe the money." So he was an aid, and yet he became a judge. Is that so simple? It's actually an argument of a top for Rabbi Kiva. We'll see in a minute why. But time we learned Sanhedrin shiro echad shor nefesh. Sanhedrin saw Reuben kill Shimon, but they all saw it. Now we have a general rule. We had a Rosh Hashanah. You're sitting in a court. You have no idea what happened. People come in and tell you a story. So what's better? That I personally, and the whole idea by them recounting the story, I now know that this is what happened. But if I saw myself, of course I know what happened. So you would think I don't need to go through the rigmarole of a court case. I can pass it on the spot based on what I saw. Says of Tarfin, Sanhedrin, some of them become witnesses, or you go through the process of a bezdin, but the people who saw can become the judges, but the people who say cannot. So therefore, some of the people who saw, some of the judges who saw, they become the edim, but once they become the edim, they can no longer pass it on their own testimony. So you need the other ones, even though they saw it, to be the judges. Give it up, Tarfin. Now, Bakiva goes a step further. Kulam Eidim Haim. All those who saw were Eidim. They're all disqualified. Yeah, even ones who are not actually testifying, all disqualified. And so Ad can look over Tarfin who says that what? That they saw. They could be judges. Why? Because they're relying on the aidus of the other one. Ella the Miktas and Asa Eidim of Yonim. I will aid Nasadain that you are actually going to be the aid. In this case, we didn't see it. He said, I saw and I passed it. Who says that? Like karma? Nobody says that. So Rabbi Kiva says, once you saw it, you can no longer be a judge. Rabbi Tarfon says, if you saw it, you could be a judge as long as you don't testify. So how can Rabbi Yehuda see it? Say, I saw it and I'm going to be the judge. So the Gemara, Ki Tanya, you know what? Rabbi Tarfon holds that an aid could be a dime. Rabbi Tarfon holds if you saw it, you can pass on the spot. So what happened in that case over there? Why did they have to set up the whole bezin process? Because it was at nighttime. You cannot have court cases at night. So you couldn't paskin at the time. When they saw Reuben murder Shimon, they couldn't say right away, you're guilty. They couldn't, because it's nighttime. You have to start, the tchilas din has to be by day. So therefore, when it comes to the daytime, you can no longer paskin what you saw yesterday, because that's now it's in the realm of testimony. You're not paskin straight away. Testimony, you cannot give testimony and be the dying at the same time. So they have no choice but mixas nasa, edim mixas nasa leonim. But if you could have passed in the case of Yehuda when he saw the man smack the other guy, it was during the day. So on the spot he could pass according to talking. He Tanya he can show but at night. The mever didn't. So if at night you cannot pass, so you have to wait till the day. The day you can't. It's a court case, then you have to have your 8 can be 9. Or I can tell you, I know this really not that I saw. I passed like Rabbi Yisrael Glili that that's the amount, the higher amount. The and here the witness, not me. The Misadabach that testify against you, Zil Havle Monotzori. Okay, so because the Gemara, now we're going to talk. Okay, now this idea of Eid Nasadain, why Taka do we say that an Eid cannot be a judge? We had another Gemara. Rabbi Kiva says that when he says that an Eid cannot be a judge is only because there's a Shaftu Eida B'Tzilo Eida. When it comes to life and death questions, we need you to be able to be objective. Go out of your way to try to help the guy out. But if you saw with your own eyes, there's nothing you can do. I mean, the fact that you're a human being, you saw Reuven kill Shimon, and what chus are you going to find? You can't be in power. Exactly, you cannot be objective at all. So therefore, you have no choice. Now, so what's the logic? Why ain't it Nasadine? The Rashbam and Bobasa goes a step further. He says that when we say, Rabbi, we're saying over here that as long as that when the aide that testifies cannot be a judge, Rashbam takes a step further. Even if he didn't testify, if you, when you were watching it, you said you intended, I plan to go to court and testify, then you're no longer, you're now a witness already. You already have the chalois of witness. When do you become a witness? Only when you testify, which is how we understand the Gemara here, which is how Taisa learns here, or like the Rashbam says about Basa, the moment you intended to go to court, along those lines, exactly. So the moment you thought, I'm going to go to court and tell somebody, yeah, exactly.
Intended to harvest them.
Exactly. So according to the Rashbam, as soon as you intended. Now, what's the logic? Why ain't it not a dime? So some say there's a custom. It says the two people who stand before Hashem. It's clear that you have two sets. You have a group called Eidim and a group called Dayan. Tracy brings a beautiful reason. He says, you know why? Like we had before. Aidis, what are the checks and balances to make sure Eidim are not lying? That God, you have to be able to find them liars. You have to be able to mazim. You can go in and say, you weren't even there at the time. But if the judges are the ones who the Aidis, you think they're going to accept Eidim Zayim coming and say, how can you judges say that you saw it when you weren't even there at the time? They're going to throw they won't even hear the case. Like the Supreme Court Lahavdil of America, they don't have to hear every case. It's up to them which cases they hear. So therefore, it's Eidit She'i Ata Yochalazima. There's no way that the judges are going to stand there and listen to somebody discrediting them. So it's Eidit Lazima. Other Rishonim have a problem with that, including one of the opinions of Taisus. What do you mean? You always go to another court. They don't have to go to the same court that that there's a story. You can go to another court and bring agent to the other court and say, hey, that court over there paskin based on the testimony on the judges, but they weren't even there at the time. They were with us somewhere else, and the other court would have to listen to them. So they don't like this reason of ain aid. Anyway, let's continue. The actually holds the ain't after dying. What time we learn? Says the pasuk, the hiki ishes if a person strikes his friend, the Evan, two people are having a quarrel, and one of them strikes his friend with a stone, or the egg with a fist. And the guy becomes sick and so on and so forth. Now you have to wonder why does it tell us to spell out exactly how he hit him? The main thing is he hit him. Why do you have to tell him with a stone or with a fist? What's the point of that? Says the Gemara, so it comes along Shimon Kimni and says like follows. Shimon Kimni, my egg, the trader is comparing a stone to a fist. Just like a fist. When these people come to court, the what do you call it? The accused is in court as well. We can see the fist and we can see whether the guy actually is capable of, with a fist, the punch or one punch, blow, is capable of hurting somebody else, or he's a weakling, he's not paid. So it's like a fist is present in court, and we can determine whether this was an accident or whether this is intentional. Is av kol shemasel eidel. Therefore, the stone, the actual weapon, the instrument, has to be brought into court, the stone, and so we can then look at the stone and say, this stone is big enough that it can actually kill somebody enough. If the Eidim lost the stone and they cannot bring it into court, we cannot rule and charge a person with murder. We can't, because we don't know whether it was an accident, whether the stone is actually, maybe the person is just a very weak person and it's a bad luck that, he just got a heart attack when you were there or something like that. We have to determine if that instrument, whatever it is, or that weapon was actually able to be a weapon. What kind of nonsense is that? You need the bezin to see it. If the witness will come in and tell us, yes, he killed him, he struck him with his rock, that should be good enough. Otherwise, did it happen in front of bezin? That they can determine what happened, as if to say that Akiva is saying, but if it would have happened in front of bezin, the bezin could determine. That means Eid Nasadayim. That's the most question. But before we get to that, what part of the body him on his ankle or his thigh or a tip of nafshe or right next to the heart, right in one of the cages there, right next to the heart cage, and therefore he hit him just in a place where the person can die. Let's say the story was a guy pushed somebody else off a roof. Or Malaysia being on top of a tower. The mason, the guy died. Bezin Hochen, it's a bit of the Bezin had to travel all the way to the house to see, well, is it high enough that he can, when he falls down, he'll die? Or does the house, do we bring the whole house or the tower to the Bezin so we can determine? If the house collapsed, do we have to rebuild the house so that we can reenact the entire event? So Bezin can determine if it was an accident, if the guy died because of his own problems. So therefore, Rabbi Kiva says, that's the thing. As long as the Eidim are convinced that this person did it deliberately and was up and there's enough power in that rock to kill him, that's enough. Bezin doesn't have to to see any of the evidence. So why does the pasuk say Egrif? If he hit him and be'edin be'egrif, what's it come to teach you? Just like a fist. The agent can see from the fist if the guy is capable of killing him. Of course, muscle agent. The agent have to be able to see the weapon. Yeah, they have to see, not the bezin. The agent have to see when they see the weapon and they say, a knife, whatever it is, that this weapon is capable of murder. If the agent didn't see what the guy had in his hand, and after he murdered the other guy, suddenly let's was a rock disappeared. The agent themselves couldn't determine whether it was the accused or whether the victim happened to have a heart attack or something, or it was a very weak person. Then Potter. That's what we learn from fist. But what do we see from here? Telling me is what do we glean from all this? All of them said the chipin a bezin, the case had it happen from a bezin. She goyed by making they know what it is. How you came from name that's an island. But if Taka would have happened from a bezin, ain't that's a dying. Clearly, see them keep a hold, give himself a hold, ain't that's a dying. So the answer is Vada the Shimon Timni Kama, but Layla Speedaway. He doesn't believe ain't that's dying. He's just arguing between Shimon Timni. Even according to you, where do you find that a bezin has to be part to see the weapon? What have we learned? Shor tam. If you have an ox, let's say, that's a tam. So the first 3 times, if it commits murder, we kill the animal. And how is it possible to come muad? You remember, we learned he ran away, something, or we didn't judge the animal till after 3 times. But if the animal, we rule that the animal has to be stoned, has to be killed, and whatever it is, we always pay from the animal itself. If there's payments to be made that is more than what the value of the animal is, a tam doesn't pay. It's megufay. When it comes to a muad, you pay mali, you pay from whatever the mazik owns. So we go to his other assets and we get compensation. So what happened the following? Shor tam. An animal owes a tam, shahemis, killed a person. But then vihizik. And afterwards, it caused damage to another person, whatever it is. So now they have 2 punishments. One is to be killed because he killed a person, and one is a monetary punishment. Remember that by tam, you only collect from the animal itself. And once you kill it, obviously, there's nothing to collect for the second guy. What do we do? We will punish din and nefashis, and we will not punish din imams. We will punish din and nefashis, not din. Before we go any further, there's an interesting question here. How can the aid nasa dayan, when it comes to murder, the din is that if you hate somebody, you're not allowed to be a judge. The Torah says if you see somebody committing a sin, you have to hate that person. So how can you ever have a case of aid nasa dayan when it comes to murder? So Shabbat will end this question. And he answers, that in itself is a question. Is there a mitzvah to hate the guy? Has he been established to be the murderer? And you're now deciding whether to stab him or not. You don't hate the guy yet. It's only after you came with a ruling and said, hey, you're a murderer, now you have to hate the guy.
So I'm afraid he passed himself.
Okay, so I'm afraid. We say it's only from that moment onwards. Anyway, get back to sorry. No, from that moment, because it only becomes a murderer after Bezin Paskin is a murderer. Exactly. Anyway, so what happens here is we kill the animal, and we do not, we don't do the financial side at all. We don't do the financial side at all. Seeing them in the Gemara. Muad shehemis. What about the case of muad that did that? First you do the money things, and then you treat, you kill the animal. What happens with a muad? Now by a muad, you don't get paid from the animal itself; you get paid from the state. So what's wrong if you charge the animal with murder, and then and Bezin pass? Okay, you got to kill, and then go listen to the case because that's what happened chronologically. Ain't choices in mamas. Why not? So what? Afterwards, go ahead and what's wrong? So let's say the animal is chayiv. He says, no, there's nothing left of the animal. Who cares? When it comes to a muad, we go to the estate of the mazik. By the yeshiva, and I saw they were asking this question, and they said, "Hamani Rav Shimon HaTimni." They said this follows Rav Shimon HaTimni, and you have to be able to see the fist, and what you have to be able to see the murder weapon. But here, once Bezin kills the animal, we can't then sit and judge the animal and charge the animal with a financial penalty for hurting somebody or causing damage because the animal is no longer there. Alma being an ubn beidina, we needed to be sitting in front of the Bezin has to assess and was the animal capable of killing somebody, so on and so forth. So the same thing when it comes to damages of money, you need to see the animal here because Bezin, according to Shimon Timni, the Bezin has to convince themselves not sufficient to rely on the agents. Give it themselves that what happened is what happened. The problem here is keeping the Gama Din Latala, the moment that you decided that animal has to be killed, we're not going to say, oh no, let's delay the animal because we have to now have another court case to decide whether the animal caused damage and how much to pay. We do not delay, we don't procrastinate, we don't delay the punishment. Now, this is a very puzzling halacha because it says, delayed justice is, justice delayed is justice denied. That's by a human being because the guy is suffering. He knows that he's about to be punished and he's waiting for it. An animal has absolutely no emotions. So what does it mean that when we say here, we don't want to delay the punishment for the animal? Unless we're talking about the owner. The owner is nervous because he's about to lose an animal and therefore he's, in a way, he's involved. Because it says the Kamisas Abayla, it says in the Pasuk you kill the owner, and we say it doesn't mean kill the owner. It means it's just like the owner, whatever law applies to the owner applies to the animals. You need 23 judges and all that. So therefore, maybe the word here is that the owner is all nervous, and that's good enough to say we don't want to delay it. Yeah, but why would it say they can't do it the next day? It's only because it's only because emotionally, we don't want to be ma'ana din, but obviously by animals as well. But in fact, it's the Ramban and Chumash on the pasuk of Shaluach Hakan. The Ramban talks about he brings a Rambam that animals have emotions. Animals also have emotions. He calls them and he has a little bit of argument there. But the Rambam says that animals have emotions. Anyway. But the question is the animal aware of what's happening? But and I told him I disagree. I feel to Rabbi Kiva. Talking about the case, you know what? The animal fled. The animal fled. That's why the court cannot have is not in the jurisdiction. They cannot sit and listen to the case of the money. That's what it means here. You feel that once the animal has been sentenced to be killed, you can no longer listen to the financial damage because the animal's not here. So the animal's not here. What's the relevance here that you sentence him to punishment? Just say that there's no animal to judge. Irrelevant. Totally unrelated to the fact that the Bezin Paskin, the animal has to be killed. Even without the fact that they already decided this animal should be killed for killing somebody. What's the relevance of that? The point is, we want to sit down and listen to a case where the animal caused damage or not. There's no animal here. So we answered, no. What happened was the Kabul Sad. We already heard the case. We just didn't make a determination yet. And then Ubarach, it fled. So therefore, because it fled now, we can no longer make a decision. So says, okay. So therefore, so what Bezin, we don't need any more the animals because we already heard the whole case. So the Bezin should go ahead and hand down the psak. But because the Bezin already passed and the animal should be killed, we no longer have an animal to work with to pay. How are you going to pay? Because remember, by a time, whatever it is, it's gone. Sorry, not by time. But once we kill the animal, you cannot get paid. Says the Gemara, or by a time. Says the Gemara. We're talking about here a case with we're talking about a mood here. We're talking about the owner has 0 assets. The only asset he had was this very animal, and the animal fled. So where are you gonna get payment from? Says the Gemara, so how are you gonna get paid? So even if everything goes all right, how are you gonna pay? How are you gonna get paid? If you're gonna kill the animal, how are you gonna get paid? Or if the guy has no assets, the guy has no assets. The only asset he has is the animal. So how are you gonna pay? We need the animal to kill the animal. How do you get paid? So when it says Miridaya, you tell me because you ran away. If you wouldn't have run away, the animal is still here, then we would listen to the court case. But what's the point? How are you going to pay? The guy has no assets. All he has is the animal. Unless the animal is here, the Bezin will paskin. But you're telling me if the animal's here, Bezin, then even though the sentence of death, they're going to paskin that you kept an animal. But how are you going to pay? The animal itself is going to be killed. So what do you do? You can't sell the animal with the proceeds, pay it to the person who the Bezin Paskin, was harmed and damaged. What's the point? You're saying the only reason why Bezin doesn't listen to this case is because the animal fled. That means if the animal would have been here, we would have listened. Even though there was already a shock of murder, of killing the animal. So if we would have listened, and you already said it was all herder and everything else, what's the point if you can't pay? But I said, no, we could. Medidaya. You can have the animal what do you call it? Go out there and work, and normally it costs a certain amount of money, and we discount it until the guy gets paid, gets reimbursed the full amount of money. And then we can and then we'll do it in the fashion. You're telling me like this: if let's say the din nefashos happened afterwards, right? If din imam is for din nefashos, listen to din imam, then din nefashos. What's the point of din imam? Whichever way it is, you can't get paid. So he says, yes, we can. We're going to have the animal work, and once the animal paid off, whatever the amount is, now we're going to sit down and listen to the nefashos. In other words, if the money came first, then the nefashos, then Bezin will listen to the imam first. We know that the nefashos is outstanding. No, it's not by an animal. And it's also two separate incidents. We're not talking about one incident, two separate incidents. So we're going to get the animal work off the pay, and then we'll go here. So the Gemara. So tam the dining the moment, but tam the dining the right? Tam do the same thing. Let the animal work it off. Working off is not from the animal. The Torah says you take the animal itself. You take the animal itself. But this, the animal working is not considered from the animal itself. And therefore, we cannot do that. There's a famous, okay, we're just 30 seconds. There's the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch in Shuvas, I think Yudalud, and the Tzeitzah Choshen and Sim Tavav. It's interesting, they both lived at the same time. And they both have exactly the same question. And that is, and the Alter Rebbe is pretty similar, or the Tzeitzah Choshen is pretty similar to the Alter Rebbe. And the question is very simple. The question is, if you did that, the Gemara asks the question, what's wrong if you did in the fasha? Then afterwards you judge the money, and we answer, we don't want to delay the punishment. So he asks the question. The moment Bezin Paskin, this animal should be killed, the animal now is also bahana. So it means okay. The Gemara Christians we learned that if somebody's animal is a shor niskal, two Eidim came to court, and then afterwards the Eidim and the shor niskal, the Eidim were found liars. Anybody who takes an animal can keep it. Why? Because the moment the Bezin paskin that this animal is sharing school, you're a mafkir, you're banned hope. What do you do with animals? So you gave up hope. It's over. It's not my animal. But then if somebody else took the animal and the Eidim were found to be liars, it's hefker, so you can keep it. So the question is, we learned before in the Gemara that if Rabbi Yehuda said that if an animal was your animal, then afterwards you made it hefker, you no longer have to pay because you have to have ownership from the beginning to the end of the court case. So if the Bezin paskin that this animal should be killed, the moment the Bezin paskin this animal should be killed, it's like hefker. And if it's like hefker, what's more saying? Now let's sit down and judge. Mark's question was, let's go have a court case about the harm that it did, and then so on. Then we answered, we don't want to delay the punishment of Bezin. Who cares? The moment Bezin paskin that the animal should be put to down, the animal is hefker. From the animal hefker, you can no longer bring it to court for money because there's no owner anymore. So what's the most question? That's the question I'll talk about. And in a nutshell, the answer is as follows. Over here, it's not hefker, it's also bahana. Also bahana means that I'm still the owner, according to most opinions, or many opinions, I'm still the owner. If I am still the owner, there's an animal you can take to court and pass it. The Gemara Christians is talking about that I made hefker. But the problem, also, you can't make hefker. I'm still, why is that hefker? On the one hand, I'm the owner. On the other hand, I'm not in control. And we learned before, like a gazlan, who steals, the owner can't make it hegdish because he's not in control. You have to be in control. So a normal case of shara nishkul, Bezin Paskin, it became asa bahana. I'm no longer in control. I turn around and make it hefker, it's useless. But the Gemara Christians turns out to be that the psak was wrong, because the agent found to be liars, which means that really was my animal and I was in control. So when I made it hefker, it actually was a real hefker, and that's why that person can keep it. Anyway, it's too early in the morning to go that. But the hefker is on false. Exactly. False assumption. No, but the hefker is real. Once you made it, you made it. You ban hope. But if you would have known, you would never made it. That's irrelevant. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow, Mitzvah.
Okay, yeah. Thanks. Bye.